self-renovation and the importance of that. What is self-renovation? What the heck does that mean? In my mind, I find that to mean acknowledging your current self and everything about it, as in the good and bad habits or what's just coming naturally to you and your natural characteristics. That takes a lot of mindfulness to take a introspective look into your own mind and your own traits, and to be saying, this is what I have right now, this is me, and then would you change anything about that, and what would those changes be, and how would they help? Those are questions that some people may never ask themselves, but if you come to a point in your life and you are facing some of those questions, I highly recommend you dig deeper, because you may find a very fulfilling part of your life asking some of those questions. So how do you renovate yourself? Well, we have traits that are not unique to us. I'm sorry, we're not all special, but we have traits that are passed down from generation to generation, and if you aren't aware of that, you may be passing down and or accepting traits that are not good for you. And so, and or we're being passed down traits that are good for us. And if we could acknowledge that, what our parents are passing down to us, what we're being taught, what behaviors is being displayed, we can identify the traits that we want to keep and the ones that we want to change. And so that's a huge part of our personal growth, is to identify what we grew up with and how that has become part of our identity and a part of ourself. So once we can kind of take a second and process that, we can challenge the idea of making those changes. And this is something I've been taking on recently, and it's made a lot of differences in my life. I've paid attention to the people around me that kind of give me some good examples of what I don't want to end up like, and or the people who are doing things that are motivational or inspiring. I'm like, yes, I want to do that with my life, and I'm going to pick up on that trait, and I'm surely going to hold on to it. And so what kind of traits can you pick up along the way when you're learning from people? It's your friends, your family, people, strangers even. What traits are good and bad for you, and how impactful would that change be if you were to make those changes? And let's say you were growing up and your parents didn't have a lot of guidance, and they passed down that lack of guidance down to you, or you don't understand an aspect of life, or you have a very enthusiastic, overly optimistic parent who just pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes and is relentless. Those are two very opposite extremes, and two of them where you kind of would want to find a balance in between all that. And so if you can understand how these traits have impacted your life, you can identify what changes you want to make. So on this journey that I've been kind of taking into my own hands, I've done a lot of writing, a lot of journaling, the same thing, but differently. I would reflect on things, or just spill my brain out on paper, and I would look at what happens, and I would go through old journals, old writings, and old songs even, and see where my mindset has shifted and changed and grew and or adapted. Like, there's just so much that we go through, and we're changing all the time. And so if we can manage those changes, we can manage the direction of our life. And through this startup of trying to put my art out there, this is a way where I've tried to display that, where I'm reinventing myself through what I'm creating. How can I live my life this way? And I want to show people that you can reinvent yourself through very many different ways, and it's so possible. So a huge part of that is also motivation. where's that motivation coming from? Is it coming from us, or do we need to find it somewhere else sometimes? And it could be really difficult, or we could sit there very unhappy with certain aspects of ourselves, or we could sit there unhappy and have no idea why. I struggle with getting angry very fast sometimes. Very rarely, but it happens, and I have to take a second to kind of pinpoint where it's coming from. And that's kind of what we all can do to pinpoint where these traits are coming from and how it's affecting our emotions and our day-to-day life. And in the end, these changes or things that don't change can impact how we live our life to our extent. We could forever be scared of making those changes and stay in our comfortable box, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're really happy with doing that, do it. But if you want to make changes in your life, you have nothing to lose, because we only live once. And I think that's a important thing that I've learned from a few philosophers, where there's one saying, every illness was a death. He dipped down into Hades. Every recuperation was a joyful rebirth, a regeneration. This mode of existence refreshed him. This was a quote from a book called Dynamite, and is written by Sue Predux. Sorry if I butchered your name, but that basically explains the act that we are forever changing. And Nietzsche really struggled with a lot of illnesses in his lifetime, and he'd get sick very easily. And so it showed him the challenges of literally getting taken down and feeling awful, and then coming right back up just to do the next challenging part of his life and doing what he loves. And it's a really good way of looking at everything, because even if you don't decide to change, life will constantly change for you. And so the self-renovation is an act of self-respect to some degree, and hope you all can find that within parts of your life and jump with the change that is in the constants. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and take a look at my art. I'm finally getting my stuff on the road. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
The colors are nice. I'm so excited. I feel like my art is coming together. That's so exciting. And then I signed it. Like it. That's me.
Miss Swan, the cat Swan. Swan! You got my ring fingers.
Wait, no, don't destroy it. So many stutters.